Hi, everyone. We'll get started in just a second. Some people are still coming into the room. If you would like a copy of the slide deck here, it is in the calendar, the Google Calendar invite. So please feel free to find it there. And we'll also drop it in the chat once we get going. This is the sort of orientation session for this year for new and continuing senators. Thanks for being here. I know the first week of classes is a busy time, but there's no good time to do these kinds of orientations in the first couple of weeks, but appreciate you being here in advance of our first full Senate meeting. My name is Stephen Schallenberg, he, him, pronouns. I was elected as chair last year, and I'm honored to be serving along with my Senate officers, parliamentarian, and an analyst. What we're going to do today is sort of try to do it in a tight 25 or so overview of senator sort of roles and responsibilities. But almost everything we'll be talking about today is covered in more detail at the University Senate's website, which is shown right here, just senate.stsu.edu. And I'll be referring to a couple resources on this site. And there's a lot here, but also the officers are a resource to you as well. If you ever have a question on anything, please feel free to reach out to us. You can request Senate help right there. That comes to all of us, including Mario, or Mario will direct it to the appropriate person. Your success in shared governance is our collective success. So thank you for being a part of what we're trying to maintain and grow here. So sort of brief sort of agenda. I've already sort of started the welcome, but welcome to all of you. And I'm going to do some brief introductions for the officers, analysts that are here today. We're not going to do intros for everyone because I want to get you out the door and you'll be meeting one another in Senate. But in addition to the intros of who's here in the room, I just want to also remind you of the structure of Senate, the various committees, who leads those committees, et cetera, and point you towards some resources for how to get connected with folks that you might want to connect with. So we'll talk about that in the intros. A couple slides on shared governance, just building a shared understanding of shared governance. So Senate responsibilities we'll go through, and I'm an elected senator myself, so I hold myself to these responsibilities as well as the position of chair. A little bit about media operations and parliamentary procedure, and then just open it up for discussion. So, I'm missing some slide content there. It's always good to start this way. It looked fine when I showed it the first time. This is our land acknowledgement, and I'm going to go ahead and read it because this is something that the campus is committed to. What I'm looking forward to this year is not just doing the land acknowledgement, also having us speak a little more directly to our connection with Indigenous people in our region and how the campus is more explicitly serving them beyond what can sometimes come across as performative land acknowledgement. Important, but it's the start of the conversation, not the end. So we stand upon a land that carries the footsteps of millennia of Kumeyaay people. There are people whose traditional lifeways intertwine with the worldview of earth and sky and a community of living beings. This land is part of a relationship that has nourished, healed, protected, and embraced the Kumeyaay people to the present day. It is part of a worldview founded in the harmony of the cycles of the sky and the balance and the forces of life. The Kumeyaay red and black represent the balance of those forces that provide for harmony within our bodies as well as the world around us. As students, faculty, staff, and alumni of San Diego State University, we acknowledge this legacy from the Kumeyaay. We promote this balance in life as we pursue our goals of knowledge and understanding. We find inspiration in the Kumeyaay spirit to open our minds and hearts. Is the legacy of red and black. It is land of the Kumeyaay. Eyahu, my heart is good. And this was constructed by Michael Misquish of Kumeyaay Nation. So we thank him for his efforts in constructing that through lots of consultations with lots of stakeholders. So briefly, my name is Stephen Schallenberg again. We may have somewhere in here in all the pictures of folks, our Vice Chair Taharka Ade. If Taharka is here, maybe you could say hello briefly.
Yeah, I'm here. Hello, everyone. I'm Taharka Ade. I'm the Vice Chair of the University Senate.
Chris Curtis serves as Secretary, and he is at Constitution and Bylaws right now, so will not be able to join us. Our Treasurer, good sir. Is Sridhar here yet?
I just realized that I was muted. So I'm Sridhar Seshagiri and I've served as the Senate Treasurer.
Thank you. Our parliamentarian is also at CBL, Nora Schultz, so she will be helping to keep us on the pathway to efficient meetings and discussions this year. And also the most important person in the room, Mario, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Mario Saldana. I'm the Senate analyst.
Great. And I want to give a special shout out to Mario. Onboarding new people is always exciting and stressful, and he's done a really amazing job helping us this year to get ready for the academic year. So I'm really appreciative to him.
Thank you.
So the Senate officers that were just shown there, we serve on Senate Executive Committee with a large number of other folks. You don't need to memorize this. There's not going to be a quiz, but these are just some of the other people that are on Senate Executive Committee. I'll talk a little more about Senate Executive Committee later in the presentation, but you'll notice we have representation from within academic affairs and beyond academic affairs. We have Associated Students, Corrine Holstrom, who is the president of Associated Students this year. Very much looking forward to working with her. We have CFA chapter president, Gloria Rhodes. So we have a collective bargaining component. We have Nola Butler-Bird. I want to thank her for her past service over the years to Senate and still to the ASCSU. She's serving in a non-voting capacity along with Nora Schultz as a parliamentarian. We also have elected from the body 3 senators at large, David Cannon, Lena Lockwood, and Marisa Vasquez. So this is to bring in a large number of people to help sort of serve when necessary and service for the Senate, and also sometimes when necessary to take into action and then report back to Senate when there's a very time-sensitive matter. Along with those folks, we have the chairs of the 12 Senate core committees also shown here that serve on SEC as well. So these are folks that are on these sort of called Senate core committees, which you may or may not be a member of. We also have a large number of other committees as well. Shared governance is done across the board. We have 12 Senate committees that are also involved. So a total of 24 committees plus SEC. And then we also have campus committees that have Senate representation. So a lot of committee work, and I want to just sort of give a shout out to the folks who lead these committees, because they're the ones who are doing a lot of the work that then comes to the Senate body to deliberate, question, and move forward and refine our shared governance process. So a shout out to them and to everyone that serves on those committees. We also have a total of 135 now senators. We are growing. We've actually outgrown our old room, AL 101. And I just want to highlight that you can always get the official roster, Senate roster, by simply going to the Senate page and seeing everyone and where they are and what their roles are and how to contact them. So we hope this is something that you will avail yourself to if you have questions for who's on what committee, etc. And we'll be coming back to this roster because it's very important, because it is our official record of who's serving on what committees. So we'll return to that a little later on. And is this filling everyone's full screen at home? Are you all seeing this full screen, just to confirm? Okay, great. Yeah, and so the Senate roster, as I mentioned, it also contains tabs for all of these committees that we mentioned: Senate Exec, the 12 Senate core committees, the 12 Senate committees. And on these tabs also includes information on membership, the function of the committee, meeting information, and current referrals. And this is a new addition down at the bottom so that anyone can see what's currently been referred to a particular committee and how things are going. So in case they have information relevant to that, or if they have an inquiry to it, they know who to go to. And this is something that's also discussed in the Senate meetings on a monthly basis for progress on those. So that's a very brief intro to sort of wayfinding, just as much introduction. And so I wanted to segue into just a couple comments about shared governance in general, especially if you're new to Senate and how it works. From a systems sort of campus level, I'd like to start with a definition of shared governance. And I shared this at the convocation, sort of this is my homebrewed, if you will, version. That essentially it's a way of making decisions that involves really 2 key and complementary components. It's that we're seeking and valuing input from all relevant parties so everyone is heard, doesn't just feel heard, but is heard, and that input is valued, but also decisions have to be made eventually, right? And so the second part is sort of ensuring that decision makers clearly articulate what their decisions are and they're accountable for the outcomes. So for example, the Senate body, when we vote in favor of a particular action, that is going to the president who has the final authority for signing off on that particular action, which means we are the voice of the body coming to her for her consideration. And she is ultimately responsible for accepting or not accepting a particular action item and what happens afterwards. So as the top person in the university, she has that right and responsibility. But it is a cooperative component. It should be an inclusive approach. We should be sharing the governance, if you just break down that word in the most basic way. More broadly, we're within a system, the CSU system, of course, and so shared governance operates at a couple different levels. There's a board of trustees. They have a set of responsibilities, and they interact with the office of the chancellor, who has their own set. And then we also have the academic senate of the CSU. We have 3 Senate elected members, Enrique Ochome, Will Weston, and Nola Butler-Byrd are representatives. And Enrique Ochome is serving on SEC this year as a representative for them. And so at that level of the system, there's shared governance happening there to some degree, maybe not as much as we would like sometimes down at the campus level, but that is the spirit of it. And at the campus level for SDSU, we have the president, who is the final decider on University Senate approved action items. And then we have our campus shared governance body. The formal body is the University Senate. And I want to stress here, it's a University Senate. It is not a faculty Senate. We have representatives of faculty, staff, administrators, and students. So we are a very inclusive body, unlike some other shared governance structures. And that's something I'm particularly proud of and value here. If you're not familiar with shared governance at all, that's not necessarily surprising. Up until 2019, we had never formally defined our principles of shared governance as an institution. We talked about it a lot, but we had not sort of wrestled with a working definition. So I'm not going to read this to you. I'm not going to give you time to read this, but this is by way of invitation to you to read through our resolution that we developed in 2019 in response to some destructive interference across campus. Say, hey, we should probably define what it means when we talk about shared governance. And one of the key emerging aspects of this were sort of 3 components centered around respect, communication, and responsibility. So I encourage you to take a look at this resolution. It's posted on the Senate website, along with some other guiding philosophies that are really important to us and guide our way forward as we work together. But those are 3 things, you'll hear us talk about that a lot: respect, communication, responsibility. And that can work not just within Senate, but it should be happening across the whole university as a community. Shared governance is not restricted or limited to the delegate body that is elected. It should be happening in your local neck of the woods. So we hope that is, and happy to have conversations with you if it isn't. So what are your major responsibilities, or our major responsibilities at the University Senate? A number of bullet points here. You can read faster than I can speak, but essentially we consider policies with regards to the broader general welfare of the university. We review established policies, think about new policies, study matters of concern, educational policy about admissions, curricula. The curricula is the domain of faculty, but there's input from broader constituents there. And that's why when you do a course proposal, it moves through the shared governance process, because everyone should have some voice in that and input if it's in the best interests of students, etc. So a wide variety of things. Important was advising the president in terms of selection of administrative personnel and searches. And so we do a number of things, and these are all sort of distilled from the policy file. And if you want to go into the policy file, it can be a great cure for insomnia, but it's also policy with a capital P. It is what guides how we make decisions on a campus. There's a lot of other policy with a lowercase p that I refer to across campus, but this is sort of the big rules, roles, and responsibilities are captured within the policy file. So that is a whirlwind, quick little tour of sort of shared governance. I want to pause here If there are any questions so far, and we just skimmed the surface, but that was intentional, or any comments about shared governance that now all of you are a formal part of as university senators. And if you have a question, just raise your hand. Just want to pause here for a moment, and then we'll move on to your responsibilities, specifically as senators. Okay. Seeing none, I will continue. Again, lots more bullets. These are really almost like a distillation that you all can, again, read faster than I can speak. We've put together a guide for senators. Thanks to Mario, myself, and the officers. We recently went through this guide just to point you to it. A lot of information here. It's a one-stop shop. If you are a new or continuing senator, I really encourage you to take a look. We currently have the recording from last year by Nola Butler Bird. It will be replaced by a much inferior production by yours truly that's being recorded right now. But this is really the great resource for you to check out as a first stop if you have questions as a new or continuing senator for how things work. Naturally, you're also always welcome to reach out to us if you have questions. Do not suffer in silence or confusion. We're here to help you. We're all novices at some point in everything, and we want you to have a successful entry into serving as a senator here at SDSU. Your job basically is you've been elected in most cases to represent your constituents. So we encourage you to seek their input and bring things back to them and talk to folks, whoever your constituents are. The other big thing that we really need you to do, we have made a commitment to getting the agendas posted on the Thursday before the Tuesday Senate meetings. In the words of Sabrina Carpenter, please, please, please read through the entire agenda before the meeting. And we do this because we want the meetings to be effective and efficient. People come up with better questions and identify things that should have been talked about earlier if they will read through the agenda beforehand and formulate questions. Late ads are no longer a thing. Things can always come to the floor of Senate to be added, but we will not be adding things at the very last moment because we understand that some people may be prepping for their Senate meeting on Tuesday on Friday morning when they have a block of time or over the weekend. And so we're going to do our best as officers to make sure that there are no surprises, right? Because nobody likes surprises unless they come with a cake. So we're going to try to refrain from surprises. There may be some, of course, with everything going on outside the university, but our job is to minimize those so that everyone is prepared to have a productive, efficient, and cordial meeting. In service of that, we also encourage you, there's a quick reference guide available as well on sort of how meetings work. And if you have a question about how to do something, this is a very nice distillation, I think made by Karen last year. There's no author listed here, but essentially a short little guide put together by someone in Senate, some good citizen in Senate, I think the previous parliamentarian, for how to do certain things. So it's sort of set up as an FAQ. If you want to do this, what do you do? If you want to do that, what do you do? So again, available on the Senate website in the guide for senators as a link.
I believe you're correct. This was Karen.
It was Karen, okay. Also, I mentioned the university policy file before. You do not need to memorize this. You would never be able to, but you should know what it is and where it is, because much of what we do in Senate refines and establishes policy with a capital P, as I refer to it, and it then lives within that document. So when you are reading through an action item, oftentimes that action item refers to something that will manifest into the university policy file and be sort of the guiding light for much of the other lowercase p's across campus. There should be nothing happen across campus that is happening that is incongruent with what is laid out in the university policy file. And if there is, that is where we need to take action and clarify and maybe amend or change or refine things. If you're going to miss a Senate meeting, these are face-to-face. We're going back to face-to-face. We ask you please find a substitute and provide this information using the Request Senate Help form that's right on the Senate page, ideally a couple days beforehand. And in general, just strive to be cordial and respectful in the meetings. The basics of Robert's Rules, an 800-page document, our book, not easy to wade through, but we use some very basic things about it. If you have questions about what's happening, you should always feel free to sort of inquire with your neighbor quietly, or to raise your hand and just state point of information and ask, what is going on? I know that may feel weird, but if you're unclear with what's going on, there are probably some other people, and the Senate officers have a high cognitive load during this time, would probably benefit from someone asking that question as well. If you're asking it 20 times a meeting, maybe that's a different conversation, but I suspect if people are raising their hands about this, we should pause and regroup so we can move forward together. All of you as elected senators serve on some sort of committee, usually a Senate core committee or a Senate committee, or it could also be that you're serving on a campus committee with Senate approved appointed members. Terms are typically for 3 years, and they may be renewed. They start on June 1st or when you're appointed, and they conclude on May 31st, the final year. The Committee on Committees and Elections, which is the best named committee in the whole universe, the Committee on Committees, sounds very Politburo. They are responsible for managing and ensuring that all of the appointments that take place across the shared governance structure, and they're also responsible for elections for various positions. So they will present committee appointments to the Senate for confirmation. So if you're not listed on that official roster, you may be serving on that committee, you may be there physically, you may be contributing, but you aren't official. And we implore you and your chair to please reach out to Committee on Committees and Elections to share that you are serving in this role or would like to be serving in it. So most continuing senators already are serving on some sort of committee. If you're a new senator, if you're already on a committee, definitely reach out to your chair for onboarding and check out the roster. If you're not yet on a committee, then if you're faculty, please reach out to your CCE rep for your college, and that is listed on the CCE tab and the roster. If you're staff, please reach out to the chair of Staff Affairs Committee, Brianna Cartmill. And if you're lecturer, please reach out to the chair of Lecture Affairs, and that's Savannah Schroeder. Questions on committee service? By show of hands, who is not yet clearly established on a committee? Mark Reed, we will get you placed. Okay.
No,
So
actually, I'm going back to the first question, which was
sure.
Were there any questions? I'm on a committee. I am new to the Senate. Should I just contact the CCC? Okay, perfect.
Consult your CCE representative.
Perfect.
Just to confirm, if you're already on the committee, because some of these committees have senator prescribed positions where there need to be a certain number of senators on it appointed. So connect with Kevin Jeffrey, by the way, is chair of CCE, and your home college CCE rep. I'm not sure who that is, but they'll be listed in the roster.
All right, cool. Thanks, Stephen.
Sure. Okay. So I want to pause there for roles, sort of your responsibilities as senator. The big thing we need you to do is to read the agenda before you come in to the meeting. And essentially, if you don't have any questions, that's fine. But if you do, be ready to figure out how to frame them, be actively listening for the broader conversation, because we are trying to do a lot of business in a finite amount of shared time. My goal this year is that we never need to go to Thursday meetings. That is an aspirational goal. It will very much depend on how much business we have and how quickly we move through it. We want to move it through it no more quickly than our shared governance principles allow, right? Okay. A little bit about meeting operations and parliamentary procedures. If you're new to ParleyPro, it can be a very confusing sort of thing, but just want to hit some highlights for recent changes. If you're coming back or if you're new to Senate, we are returning to face-to-face meetings. So associate students did this 2 years ago. They gave us very strong endorsement for doing this. I realize it is a trade-off. We've gotten tied into the convenience, the individual convenience of Zoom, but that's in the officer's opinion, and through a lot of consultations, been at the expense of community and in some cases civility. So we're going to come back together as a community for our meetings. There are only 8 meetings per year. The fall locations have been secured. They're in the calendar invites, and they'll also be on the agendas. The first meeting is probably the least efficient room, but it was what we could get, and that will be the Student Union Theater. All the rest of the rooms are large classrooms. The reason why we're jumping around is that we've outgrown AL 101. We no longer fit in there as a body. We're going to be working with academic fairs, or are working with academic fairs, to find a single location for spring through some space sharing agreements with instructors and some key classrooms, because we only meet once a month. We also have a strong commitment to our Imperial Valley colleagues. We're going to have dedicated support for them to join via Zoom. They're also welcome to come over the hill, so to speak. That is quite a journey, but if they'd like to do that, we're happy to support mileage and such out of the Senate budget. And for folks who have concerns about coming back face to face, we will have some social distancing efforts there within those spaces for folks who are like a little more spread out. We want to try to accommodate everyone in the needs, but our goal is to bring people back into community. We don't have a lot of opportunities to interact, and some of the most important times for interaction are before the meeting and after the meeting. Very important community building, very important for maybe if things get heated, to have a quick check-in with folks so we all leave feeling good about our experience. And so I welcome and look forward to seeing all of you there. Another thing about agenda development, we've shifted, for those of you that might be submitting agenda items, we've shifted them up a little earlier. They're now due noon on Wednesday before SEC. This is all in the calendar. And the agenda will be presented to you as senators on the Senate website, and we'll send you an announcement. It will be posted the Wednesday before the Tuesday Senate meetings. Again, we're not going to be peppering you with late additions into the agenda. There can always be a motion from the floor, but my lived experience is having things come in at the last minute. We need to make a very intentional decision by the Senate body. Are we well served by looking at something where most of the people have not looked at it? And so this is not a hospital, right? In most cases, many of these items can wait so that everyone can be more informed and take a more circumspect approach to whatever might be the matter at hand. So that is our goal and aspiration for this. The other thing that will be happening is we're going to try to shift elections all up by one meeting. So if you're new to Senate, you won't notice a difference. If you're a senator that's continuing, our lived experience is if we move everything back a month, it just gives a longer runway to get all the Senate business done that we need to get done. We don't see a downside at all. There's a little bit of policy file language we'll need to do, but it just gives a longer runway for crossover, for getting new senators onto committees, for having a conversation about the annual agenda for the coming year. There's lots of upsides, and we don't really see a downside. So you can look forward to having this happen just 1 month earlier for everything. I think having election of Senate officers the last meeting in May, and then immediately the semester ends and the academic year ends, it makes it really hard to have crossover and get things done. So this will make a lot of things much easier in our opinion. So you can look forward to that as well. Parliamentary procedure real quick. If Nora was here, I'd pass it off to her. But this is essentially a process to make sure that all voices are heard and that ideally decision-making is informed. It can be confusing. Robert's Rules is like 800 pages long, right? It's basically a guide. It's not a set of legally binding rules. We have a parliamentarian who will help guide us when we lose our way in terms of how things should be working as we move through. A couple comments. I've seen an increasing tendency for people to abstain from votes in Senate. Abstaining is essentially refusing to vote. And I use that word refusing very intentionally. You're refusing to vote. And you should really, in my opinion, carefully consider your rationale for doing that and the impact it has on the body and beyond. I'd like to see more people voting. If you don't feel like you're informed enough, you need to ask yourself the question, do I not feel comfortable voting because I haven't read this material? Do I not feel comfortable voting because I have questions? And if so, is that a question I could have asked during the discussion of the item? So I'd love to see more votes this year that are informed votes, obviously. Don't just flip a coin, please, but I would love to see fewer abstentions. And one reason for this is that voting is based on simple majority or 2/3 majority, and motions pass or fail based on the yeas and nays alone. Abstentions are not considered. right? So we simply look at the yays divided by the yays plus nays to get at 50% or 2/3. So having you vote, make an informed vote is really critical so that we can move forward with the Senate's business. We'll also have some conversations about speaking limits, so everyone's on the same page. If we feel like things are getting very dense and we need to invoke some speaking limits, we'll be sure that those are set at the start of the conversation about a particular item and perpetuate through it and then continue if needed. So no one is feeling disenfranchised and everyone is getting the same amount of time. If things get confusing, we're putting together a couple of visuals here to guide with meetings, and these things can be pulled up as needed. We can have motions within motions, and it can get sometimes confusing for novices. So our goal here is just to have a little bit of a mental map for folks so they can have a good idea of where we are in things. And really, that's the arc of what I wanted to sort of share. I welcome the officers for anything I forgot or misrepresented to jump in and make some comments. And then just really wanted to open up for discussion for all of you. Again, the key thing here is everything I've covered is in the guide for senators. If you have questions or if something could be improved in that document, please reach out to us and let us know. We want it to be a useful document for everyone. We're sort of swimming in it. So sometimes we're just not picking up on points that could be clarified, and we welcome your inquiries and questions. So any comments from the Senate office before we open it up for any questions or discussion from anyone else?
I just wanted to reiterate that abstention from voting, as Stephen pointed out, should be extremely rare in your voting history. If the issue is that you just really don't understand what's going on, please don't be afraid to just, ask the question, like what exactly are we voting on, instead of just choosing to abstain from it. But other than that, no, I think you handled that well, Stephen.
I'll piggyback on that. I'll do a yes and. My comment is for abstentions is also directed towards the administrators that serve ex officio. I appreciate, as a former administrator, sometimes you may feel a little averse to voting on something because you're an administrator. If you're a voting member of Senate, you are a voting member of the University Senate. And in my opinion, that's not a good rationale to not vote. You are there structurally to represent the broader university along with faculty, staff, and students. And so if you have an aversion to voting because you feel like you're putting your thumb on the scale, I do not view it that way. That is how it is set up. So I would encourage you to vote as a member of the University Senate.